Welcome to Canadian Football League Weekly, presented by the World of Football. Each week, we recap games played up north in the CFL as we look ahead to next week's games. Our mission is to educate American football fans on the teams and players in the CFL, in the hopes that they will come to love the league as much as we do. I'm Randy Snow, and I'm joined by my son Adam.
That's right. How you doing? Hope everybody had a good Labor Day, regardless of how you spell it, with or without that U in there. I know like Canada likes to use. So, I had fun watching games this weekend. I know you did. And hopefully the Canadian fans out there didn't. And if you are, like Dad said, an American wanting to learn about it, hopefully we can bring you over to the good side, the Canadian side, because there's some good football over here, guys. We're here to talk about it.
That's right. Absolutely. All right, you're going to tell them about our other shows that we have?
Oh, I was wondering why there was a big, long, awkward pause there. Sure. Guys, we have so much going on here on this YouTube channel. Even I can't keep it all straight, and I'm the one helping post all of it all the time. We have our weekly podcast, This Week in the World of Football, which we post every Tuesday. You can find that on any platform that you can find your podcast, as well as on this YouTube channel where we post the audio version of the show. Go check that out. I also do a show with my brother-in-law, called Just Lying Around, a Detroit Lions podcast. We do that very frequently now that the Detroit Lions season has started up. So go over there, check that out. And returning this week on September 4th, by the time this video's up, the first picks video should be up. It's our weekly NFL picks. We're doing week 1. It's me, it's Dad, it's Aaron. And we're going to go through every NFL game and pick the winners. And, just a fun little competition between the three of us as the season goes along, as well as for fans out there who want to join in and leave their picks in the comments. There's a few ways to do that. You could either drop them in the community tab where we have a special post where you can post your picks for the week, or leave your comments in that video before the Thursday night game kicks off in the NFL, and we'll try to add you to the contest. And we mention your names along the way as we go, and it's a lot of fun. It's something we've been doing the last few years on the channel. Spiel done.
All right. Well, let's get right into the Week 13 scores in the Canadian Football League. On Saturday, it was the BC Lions over the Ottawa Redblacks 38-12. On their opening drive, quarterback Nathan Rourke scored on a 1-yard rushing touchdown for a 7-0 lead. In the second quarter, Rourke threw a touchdown pass to wide receiver Alexander Holland to increase the Lions' lead to 17-0. Ottawa punter Richie Leon completed a pass to fullback Marco Dubois on a fake punt, which led to a 53-yard field goal by Lewis Ward. BC running back William Stanback scored a rushing touchdown with 5:03 left in the half. Rourke closed out the first half scoring with a long touchdown pass to wide receiver Aiden Eberhardt, and BC led 31-6 at halftime. In the third quarter, Ottawa quarterback Drew Brown threw a touchdown pass to wide receiver Dominic Rhymes, making the score 31-12, but that was all the scoring for Ottawa. In the fourth quarter, Rourke threw his third touchdown pass of the game, this time to wide receiver Justin McInnis, securing a 38-12 win and snapping their 5-game losing streak. Quarterback Nathan Rourke completed 21 of 30 passes for 325 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. He also ran for 29 yards and another touchdown. Running back William Stanback had 20 carries for 93 yards and a touchdown. He also had 6 catches for 78 yards. Wide receiver Justin McInnis had 3 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown. And on defense, linebacker TJ Lee had 9 tackles and another on special teams. For Ottawa, quarterback Drew Brown completed 21 of 33 passes for 206 yards and a touchdown. Running back Raquel Armstead had 24 yards rushing, and wide receiver Eli Stove had 8 catches for 73 yards. Kicker Lewis Ward made 2 field goals, the longest from 53 yards. On defense, linebacker Frankie Griffin had 10 tackles and 3 tackles for loss. This was the inaugural Touchdown Pacific game that was played at Royal Athletic Park in Victoria, British Columbia, which is home to the Victoria Harbour Cats, a West Coast League baseball team. The attendance at this game was 14,727, which, it sounds awfully small, but this was a makeshift field that they put in a park on a baseball field, but when you saw it on TV, man, it worked. It looked great. It looked like a really cool, intimate setting for a CFL game, and the weather was awesome. They had a nice flyover. This was just a great game to watch on TV.
It was. It was a gorgeous looking game. It was weird seeing the BC Lions outdoors for a home game. But that crowd was into it. Hearing them chant, "Go Lions" or "Lions," whatever the chant was going. It was great. I thought it was so cool. That's why I donned the BC Lions shirt this week. I got because they rocked it. And I thought they absolutely nailed it. The only problem I had was the broadcast. I guess there was some glitchiness. There was like some issues with getting the broadcast out. So I'm wondering, with it being a makeshift field, with it kind of being a makeshift venue, there was probably bound to be some technical hiccups. I kept thinking it was my YouTube TV as I was watching the game, but you have a satellite dish and watch the games, and even you said you had some issues, so clearly it was on their end, not just on my end. So other than that, great, and obviously Nathan Rourke finally showing up. Just absolutely balling out, scoring 4 touchdowns, 3 in the air, 1 on the ground. Absolutely awesome to see him get back into form. And it was really cool to see Matthew Betts come back to the team. He was with the Detroit Lions in training camp. The Lions cut him, and he went and signed back with BC. Came in, got a sack during the game. So, a good way to come back to the CFL for the defending most outstanding defensive player of the year in the CFL last year. On Sunday, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers defeated the Saskatchewan Roughriders 35-33. Winnipeg quarterback Chris Streveler opened the scoring with a short touchdown run midway through the first quarter. Then Saskatchewan answered with a touchdown pass from quarterback Trevor Harris to wide receiver Sean Bain Jr. to tie the score at 7 apiece. In the second quarter, an interception by Saskatchewan's Marcus Sales led to the first career touchdown reception by wide receiver Dante Myers. Winnipeg responded with a long touchdown pass to wide receiver Nick Dembski, and the game was tied again at 14-all. The Blue Bombers scored again when Saskatchewan kick returner Mario Alford muffed a punt that rolled into the end zone and was recovered by defensive back Nick Hallett for a Winnipeg touchdown. After Chris Streveler scored his second short yardage touchdown of the game, Winnipeg led at halftime 29-14. In the third quarter, Saskatchewan kicker Brett Lothar kicked a pair of field goals, the longest of which was from 55 yards, making the score 29-20 in favor of the Blue Bombers. Winnipeg kicker Sergio Castillo had a 52-yard field goal of his own, but Saskatchewan's Keyshawn Johnson caught a touchdown pass in the fourth quarter and brought the Rough Riders to within 5 points, 32-27. Castillo added a 56-yard field goal with 1:35 left in the game and a 35-27 lead. With 14 seconds remaining, Saskatchewan scored on a short touchdown run, but the 2-point conversion to tie the game was no good. Saskatchewan recovered the onside kick and had a chance to win the game, but Lothar's 60-yard field goal attempt as time expired came up short. Winnipeg quarterback Zach Collaros, who was injured late in the second quarter and did not return to the game, completed 12 of 18 passes for 218 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Backup quarterback Chris Streveler completed 4 of 6 passes for 46 yards. He also ran 7 times for 12 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Ontario Wilson led the receivers with 3 catches for 75 yards. On defense, defensive back Evan Holm had 8 tackles and 2 more on special teams. For Saskatchewan, quarterback Trevor Harris completed 30 of 49 passes for 368 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also scored a rushing touchdown. Wide receiver Dante Myers had 5 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown, while wide receiver Keyshawn Johnson had 8 catches for 84 yards and a touchdown. On defense, defensive back Roland Milligan had 6 tackles and another on special teams. So this is the type of craziness we've been expecting from the CFL all season long, and it just adds to what ended up being a crazy weekend for Labor Day action here in the CFL. I mean, what more could you ask for a game coming down to just that missing a 60-yard field goal? Like, oh man, it's just only in the CFL. It's awesome.
Yeah, all the games this week featured long field goals, and in this particular game, you had a 56-yard field goal by Winnipeg and a 55-yarder, and then a 60-yarder that was missed. So,
yeah.
What more do you ask of your kickers?
I mean, maybe a few more rouges to go walk off the game with. I don't know what more you could ask for. But, shoot, I mean, just entertaining. And Winnipeg, how about them just bouncing back from their rough start of the season? tough to see Caleros go down again. And, Strevler coming in and picking it up. But man, Winnipeg's a team not to be messed with right now. They're getting hot, even with Strevler in at quarterback right now. I mean, they're doing the right things. They got a good team there, and they're capitalizing on teams just falling short. Teams just kind of falling apart. In Saskatchewan, my goodness, not able to put together a couple wins in a row after they were just close 2 weeks in a row now. They've already been riding that slide, for the last few weeks. So the Blue Bombers are just striking when the opportunities presented itself. This whole West Division, we talked about it last week, has been absolutely crazy. And the fact that they've let Winnipeg claw their way back into the playoff race is probably going to be something they're all going to regret come playoff time if Winnipeg makes it in.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. All right, on Monday, the first of a doubleheader, it was the Hamilton Tiger Cats over the Toronto Argonauts 31-28. Early in the game, Hamilton quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell completed a touchdown pass to Tim White for a touchdown and a 7-0 lead. On his first play ever in the CFL, Hamilton backup quarterback Talia Tungavailoa scored a 3-yard rushing touchdown and the Ticats led 14-0. Tim White added a second touchdown for 70 yards to increase the Hamilton lead to 21-3. In the second quarter, Kelly connected with Devarius Daniels on a touchdown pass, and the score was 27-15 at halftime. In the third quarter, Kelly could not find an open receiver, so he ran it in himself, closing the gap to 27-22 in favor of Hamilton. The game was tied 28-28 with 8 minutes and 28 seconds left. Hamilton's Mark Leggio kicked the game-winning field goal with 2 minutes and 37 seconds remaining, and the Tiger Cats were able to run out the clock from there. Hamilton quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell completed 20 of 30 passes for 347 yards and 2 touchdowns. Running back Greg Bell ran the ball 9 times for 78 yards, and wide receiver Tim White had 6 catches for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kicker Mark Leggio made 3 field goals, the longest from 55 yards. On defense, defensive back Jamal Peters had 8 tackles and a tackle for loss. For Toronto, quarterback Chad Kelly completed 24 of 30 passes for 322 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. He also ran for 39 yards and another touchdown. Running back Kadeem Carey ran the ball 12 times for 78 yards, and wide receiver David Ungerer had 4 catches for 78 yards. Kicker Lyram Hiralahu made 5 field goals in the game, his longest from 47 yards out. On defense, linebacker Quincy Mauger had 7 tackles, a sack, and 2 tackles for loss. This game was known as the Battle of Ontario, and in this game, Hamilton quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell is now 7-0 on Labor Day games that he's played. He hasn't played in a few years, but overall, he's never lost when he started on Labor Day game.
Yeah, so if he plays in the future, if he stays with Hamilton next year, so I know where we got to bet our money. We got to put all the World of Football money on Bo Levi Mitchell to win on Labor Day next year.
Yeah, Toronto only led 1 time in this game, and that was just briefly when it was 28-27 in the fourth quarter. Then there was a rouge to tie the game, and then there was a field goal. But yeah, that's the only time they led the whole game. So they had to claw their way back. Got it tied up, towards the end, but gave up a field goal, and they just couldn't do anything after that. So a little disappointing.
It was disappointing being a Toronto fan too, because I was watching. I don't know how much you watched the whole game, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so I caught it when it was when they scored the second touchdown. So they were up. The Tiger Cats were up 14-0. I was like, okay, let's see if Toronto can claw their way back. And it just seemed like Hamilton was just on something else, because I think Toronto went down and kicked the field goal. Then Hamilton struck right back with a bomb for that touchdown. I'm just like, man, Hamilton just playing lights out on Labor Day. After we were kind of talking about their struggles and how they're kind of the odd man out in that East Division. But well, hold on a second, everybody. Hamilton flashed a little bit of life. Whether that's just the Bo Levi Labor Day magic or not, we'll have to wait and see. But I kind of tuned out. It was 21-3, and I had some stuff going around because I've moved, so was taking care of some stuff. And then I caught the score, and I saw that Toronto was starting to claw their way back in. I was like, oh man, the first chance I get, I wanted to sit down, so I did, and caught it when Toronto took the lead back, and then how quickly it just evaporated, and how Hamilton just hung on at the end for the win, and deservingly so. They played. I mean, other than that stretch where they let Toronto kind of claw back, and when Hamilton dialed in, they were dialed in, and Bo Levi Mitchell was throwing darts all day. So kudos to him, and good for that team, that fan base there. Because I mean, we've been to Hamilton, great fans, great stadium. I just love that place, and that place looked packed. And the fact that they got to go there and see a Hamilton win, it was nice for them. I'll give them that, even if it was against my Argos.
Yeah, my Argos lost, but I'm ripping the Hamilton Tiger Cats today, so good for them. Maybe next time the results will be different.
Maybe we'll see. And like I said, we'll see if Hamilton can keep this momentum up. I mean, they even talked during the game about the likelihood that maybe for the first time, I don't know if it was ever or the first time in a long time, how an East Division team could actually maybe cross over into the West the way the West has been shaken up. So, lot could be happening.
I heard that, and I think it would be the first time ever since they started the whole crossover thing. I don't know when they started that, but I've seen many times over the last several years that a Western team would cross over because they had better records than the third place team in the East. But I guess that
like
would
a
be
video idea for the world of football to tackle there, Randy.
What's that?
The Canadian crossover. I feel like that's something you should tackle here soon.
So many history lessons, so little time.
And finally, to wrap up Labor Day weekend, the Edmonton Elks defeated the Calgary Stampeders 35-20. The first touchdown of the game occurred late in the second quarter when Edmonton quarterback McLeod Bethel Thompson threw a touchdown pass to Eugene Lewis, making the score 13-6 in favor of Edmonton at halftime. In the third quarter, Edmonton's Tevin Jones caught a touchdown pass, but Calgary responded with a touchdown pass of their own from quarterback Jake Maier to running back Kylan Hill, cutting Edmonton's lead to 20-13. In the fourth quarter, Edmonton was backed up on their own 3-yard line when Bethel Thompson completed a pass to Eugene Lewis, who then fumbled the ball, but was picked up by Tevin Jones, who raced all the way to the 1-yard line before being tackled, resulting in a 106-yard play. Backup quarterback Dakota Prukop scored on the very next play for a 27-13 Edmonton lead. Calgary's Peyton Logan then returned a punt 104 yards for a touchdown, but Edmonton still led 27-20. Edmonton came right back with a 73-yard touchdown pass to Tevin Jones, and that was enough for the win. Edmonton quarterback McLeod Bethel Thompson completed 25 of 36 passes for 486 yards and 3 touchdowns. Wide receiver Tevin Jones had 5 catches for 208 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Curly Gittins Jr. had 7 catches for 115 yards, and wide receiver Eugene Lewis had 6 catches for 112 yards and a touchdown. On defense, linebacker Derek Moncrief had 7 tackles and 5 tackles for loss. For Calgary, quarterback Jake Maier completed 22 of 34 passes for 297 yards, a touchdown, and 4 interceptions. Wide receiver Reggie Bagleton led the receivers with 7 catches for 118 yards. On defense, linebacker Brandon Dozier had 7 tackles. Well, I guess they saved some of the best football for last in the Battle of Alberta. And how about McLeod Bethel Thompson just absolutely slinging it? 400 yards, 3 receivers with over 100 yards receiving. What a performance.
Yeah, so many big plays. I mean, the punt return, the fumble that was picked up and ran to the 1-yard line, and just so many big plays in this game. This was a great game, great atmosphere. Another sellout, I think, in Edmonton. Or no, was it in Calgary? I can't remember
where it was in Calgary.
In Calgary, but yeah, just a great sight to see a packed stadium. All these teams this week, for this Labor Day weekend, they were all pretty much sold out. So great to see those huge crowds, because you don't always see that the rest of the season. You see half full stadiums and whatnot, but everybody comes out for Labor Day, and it's great. This game was halted briefly in the second half, I think, when the sky camera stopped working. It was just hanging there low over the field. I don't know if you saw that. If you were watching,
I missed that part.
But yeah, they had to stop the game for several minutes until they could somehow manage to get it, pulled off to the side so they could continue with the game. But yeah, that was a little interesting. It wasn't too long, but it was a delay. And this was the weekend for long field goals. Early in the game, Calgary kicker Rene Paredes made a 57-yard field goal. So between the other games, you had a 55, a 56, and here a 57 here, a 60-yarder that was missed. Yeah, great weekend for kickers. Must have been something in the air up there in Canada.
It's been an up and down season for kickers in the CFL. I mean, one week, I forget which kicker it was, missed, 4 field goals in a game. So the kicking element in the Canadian Football League is always exciting. It doesn't matter. You miss it, or you get a rouge, or you make a big field goal. These kickers in the CFL have had quite the year, in my opinion. I feel like we've talked more about Canadian kickers than we've ever talked about Canadian kickers in my life. So kudos to them. They started off rough. Remember, they had that story earlier in the year about the tracking chips on the balls, and here we are, and they've been booting them and slinging those balls. So good for them. Just a great weekend, just to sum up everything. This game especially was fun. A lot of good plays, like you said. A lot of the performances themselves, like the fact that Edmonton now getting their 4th win of the season, them getting back into the conversation now about possibly being a legitimate playoff team. They're getting hot at the right time, and then now they got questions to answer because Trey Ford was suited up. Trey Ford sat on that bench and watched Cloud Bethel Thompson just absolutely play his best game of the season. So a lot of questions in Edmonton, but it's cool seeing them kind of on the rise. And they are far from that worst team in the league we were kind of seeing early on in the season, or that the people thought. I was still kind of on the side of they're a good team. They just got to, get over that hump. A couple plays here and there will change their season. Here we are.
Yeah. And then on a bye this week was the Montreal Alouettes. So even with all those great games, Montreal still has the best record, and they were on a bye this week. All right, let's look at the CFL standings after Week 13. In the East Division, the Montreal Alouettes are at 10-1, the Ottawa Redblacks at 7-3-1, Toronto Argonauts at 6-5, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats now at 3-9. In the West Division, it's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at 6-6, the BC Lions at 6-6, Saskatchewan Roughriders at 5-6-1, Calgary Stampeders at 4-7, and the Edmonton Elks at 4-8. Looking ahead to the Week 14 matchups, on Friday it's the BC Lions at the Montreal Alouettes. On Saturday it's Toronto at Ottawa. Also on Saturday it's Saskatchewan at Winnipeg, which is going to be the Banjo Bowl, and we'll talk more about that next week. And also on Saturday, Calgary at Edmonton, with Hamilton on a bye this week. One news item that I found this week is that a couple from Winnipeg have set a new Guinness World Record for seeing games in all 9 stadiums in the shortest time. They did it in 14 days, 1 day shorter than the previous record holder, which we just said it a few weeks ago. And the new record ended in Montreal. So they told her name, even they showed her, like, in her husband, I guess. They're wearing Winnipeg clothes, and they didn't even mention his name. So yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to the article, but I checked with our resident expert up in Montreal, Tim Capper, and I asked him what he knew about it. He just said, yeah, it happened here, and it's a story. So I don't know if we'll see any more world record attempts this year to try and go to all the games in the shortest amount of time, but it happened once last year and twice this year, so we'll see.
Hey, still cool. I mean, the fact that multiple people have been attempting this is pretty darn neat, and I'm sure every year we're going to hear about this. This is the same type of story we're probably going to hear every year. There's going to be somebody who thinks they can pull it off in that 15-day window. Yeah. And as long as the schedule makers have that in mind, I bet you the schedule makers will maybe even push it a little bit and be like, well, no, you could do it in 14 days if you do it right. So I bet you they got their eye on that too.
Yeah. All right, well, that's all the time we've got for this week. Tune in again next week when Adam and I will review the games played in the Canadian Football League. We'll be doing this throughout the regular season and the postseason, as well as the 111th Grey Cup game in Vancouver this November, where we will be in attendance. So remember, folks, some people may love football more than we do, but nobody, and I mean nobody, loves more football than Adam and I sitting here in Kalamazoo. Until next time, I'm Randy Snow.
And I'm Adam Snow.
And we'll see you next week somewhere around the 55-yard line.